Hi everyone, in my presentation I will discuss museum security. We will start with a high-stakes case of museum security, which is considered the biggest art heist to date. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, Massachusetts made headlines across the country in March of 1990 when it was targeted by robbers who committed the world's biggest art heist. In the early hours of March 18th, two men dressed in police uniforms entered the museum. Assuming they were responding to a disturbance, the museum's guards promptly let them in through the employee entrance, which was against museum protocol. And this is where the problems began. The quote-unquote police officers worked quickly, handcuffing and binding the guards, placing them in the basement of the museum, and within 81 minutes ripped 13 artworks from their frames and departed the premises, never to be seen again. The only trace of the robbery was the motion detectors capturing the thieves' movements through the museum's Dutch room, short gallery, and blue room, and the empty frames sitting on the walls. Officials discovered the guards in the basement at 8:15 a.m. on March 18th, but they provided little information that assisted in the ongoing investigation of the heist. The return of the artworks remains a top priority for the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the museum, which is still offering a $10 million reward for information leading directly to the safe return of the stolen artworks. For now, the empty frames still hang within the galleries as symbols of hope for their safe return. The story of the heist is very cinematic and continues to inspire movies, TV shows, and this presentation. I will discuss the exhibition standards, focusing on the security protocols that museums should have in place to ensure the safety and preservation of their collections. I will first review the standards for collection and exhibition security protocols, and then we will return to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum to apply these protocols before and after the heist. Security is critical to preservation because it ensures the artifact and its supplemental documentation are protected from theft, environmental hazards, and accidental damage. The security of collections should be the concern of all staff members. However, an individual or group is typically appointed to implement and uphold security protocols directly. The key principles of security protocols include risk assessment, access control, environmental protection, surveillance and alarms, staff training, and emergency planning. In the following slides, I will go through each of these principles. For risk assessment, museums conduct evaluations to identify potential threats, including theft, fire, and water damage. To do this, the evaluations would include assessing the threat, evaluating vulnerability in both physical and cybersecurity aspects, staff training, storage conditions, and quantifying the potential consequences of each risk, such as financial loss, damage to reputation, operational disruptions, and irreparable loss. Pictured is the construction of the 9/11 Memorial and Museum in New York City during Hurricane Sandy's flooding. Due to the state of construction, water entered the future gallery space, making water a top priority for museum staff as they began creating security protocols. Access control ensures that only authorized individuals can enter restricted areas while maintaining a welcoming environment for visitors. There are tiered access levels, including public spaces, staff-only zones, collection storage, and high-security areas, which are established to ensure the safety of the museum's staff, visitors, and collection. These levels can be enforced through the authentication and verification of staff and visitors using physical barriers, electronic access controls, visitor management systems such as registration desks and temporary badges, and surveillance integrated to track movement in sensitive areas. Pictured are the visitor stickers given to the guests at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which are disregarded upon exiting the museum. Environmental protection maintains stable temperature and humidity levels to prevent deterioration. Museums can use HVAC systems to maintain stable conditions and air filtration systems to remove pollutants from the air. This principle can also impact disaster preparedness by addressing environmental factors such as water and fire prevention and structural integrity that natural disasters like tornadoes and earthquakes may compromise. Pictured are the damages to the collection in the Archaeological Museum in the capital of Croatia after it was hit by an earthquake on March 23rd of 2020. Surveillance and alarms involve using security cameras, motion detectors, and alarm systems to deter unauthorized access. Having staff dedicated to monitoring these systems is also vital. Physically placing guards through the galleries can also prevent theft and vandalism and provide an element of crowd control. Pictured is one of the many guards standing watch over the Metropolitan Museum of Art galleries. For staff training, educating employees and volunteers on security protocols and emergency response ensures that they are prepared to handle threats, protect collections, and respond to emergencies effectively. Staff should be trained to recognize threats such as suspicious behavior, theft risks, and environmental hazards, receive emergency response training, and learn how to handle security breaches. It should also be emphasized that while the collections are a top priority, nothing takes precedence over ensuring the safety of staff and visitors in any situation. Emergency planning is developing disaster preparedness strategies to safeguard the collection in case of natural or human-made crises. This principle closely relates to risk assessment, as the disaster preparedness measures should be created based on the risks present. The measures should also include evacuation plans, collection protection strategies, and emergency supplies. Staff should be trained for all emergencies, and drills should be conducted regularly to prepare staff and visitors. Collaboration with local emergency services is also recommended. Pictured is the Getty Villa in Los Angeles, California during the fires early this year. Due to the museum's emergency planning, no staff or collections were harmed. The security protocols for collections, while on display, are nearly identical to the protocols previously discussed. Both share common goals such as protecting artifacts, ensuring visitor safety, and preventing theft or damage. However, they do differ in scope. Exhibition security concerns the following: access control and visitor management. This would be a new element in managing the crowd flow to prevent congestion and minimize risk to artifacts. Artifact protection ensures that the collections are in secure display cases with environmental controls and are being handled properly. Surveillance and alarm systems, staff training, and emergency preparedness are very similar to the security protocols previously discussed. Insurance and legal considerations are unique elements because they address loan agreements between museums, risk assessment, and liability coverage to protect against theft or damage. Pictured are environmental activists protesting oil companies. To express their stance, they have started vandalizing paintings with paint and tomato soup. Security is often swift to remove them, but this is still a concern for museums and has made them readdress their crowd management and other exhibition security protocols. After reviewing the security standards and exhibition protocols, I want to wrap up by revisiting the Gardner Museum. Before the infamous robbery, the museum admitted to having flawed security protocols, including a lack of video surveillance in the galleries, spotty coverage of the employee entrance where the thieves entered, and inadequate staff training on security protocols. Although young, the guards on duty on the night of March 18th knew that anyone entering through the employee door was prohibited. This detail has led to much speculation, such as suggesting that it was an inside job. The theft occurred in 1990, so the museum has naturally made advancements. Anthony Amore overhauled security procedures in the early 2000s to help secure the rest of the collections through heightened surveillance, increased security presence in the galleries, and staff training programs. The museum now provides a know before you visit, as most museums do. The museum has bag and belongings restrictions, with outside food, drinks, bags, backpacks, and luggage being not permitted. Photography is encouraged, but any additional equipment is prohibited. Visitors who feel sick or have symptoms related to COVID are encouraged to visit when they are feeling well. The museum draws thousands of visitors annually and holds an extensive collection of art and artifacts from antiquity to the 1920s. This includes 75,000 paintings, sculptures, furniture, textiles, silver, ceramics, rare books, and thousands of archival objects. However, among these collections, the empty symbolic frames still decorate the walls, waiting over 30 years for their paintings to be returned. For my discussion questions, I posed the following. Do you think any other considerations should be addressed when creating museum and exhibition protocols? And the Gardner Museum reputation is tied to the heist and the gallery's symbolic empty frames. If you were the museum's director during or immediately after the event, would you have allowed the frames to remain hanging, or would you have chosen to take them down and preserve the event differently? If so, how? Here are my references and recommendations for further reading. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to reading your insights on the questions.